Hi guys, my name is Natalie. This assignment is for Liberal Studies 498. We'll be focusing on lesson plans for 3rd graders, but of course for this video we are just focusing on history lesson plans, but I'm just doing one of course. But the topic we are going to be discussing is American Indian nations, and just stop right here. If you guys need a visual of what I'm talking about, maybe I'm just shortening it, maybe you need more description. I do have a draft, but it's just a draft. It's not like an official lesson plan, of course. So if I need fixing or if I need to do something else to make my lesson plan more better, please do tell. That is why I'm doing this video, so you guys could talk back to me and tell me what I need to fix. So that is why it's there. For these standards, there it is an ELA standard and a history standard, but I'm just going to be saying the number and then the description of that number of the standard. So for history, it would be HSS-3.2.2, which is discuss the ways in which physical geography, including climate, influenced how the local Indian nations adapted to their natural environment. Of course, it would be how they obtained food, clothing, tools, and of course with the English standard, it would be SL 3.1, which is engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions. It can be one-on-one, in groups, and it would just be with diverse partners on a 3rd grade topics and texts that would be building on other ideas and expressing their own clearly. For the objectives, students describe the American Indian nations in their local region long ago and in the recent past. And of course, by kind of introducing this topic to them, I will kind of focus on showing landscape images. And of course, there is in the docs, there is pictures of them. It would be showing a desert, a beach, or of course, mountains that are have snow on it. It's very cold up there. But of course, within these images, it shows that with each location, it is different. And I chose to do this as an introduction because as you slowly get into the topics of the American Indian nations, it shows that within the American Indian nations, there were different tribes, of course, and they lived in different locations of the United States, of course, and it was all different. They didn't live the same. Each was different. Some hunted in water, some just hunted on land. It was different for each tribe, of course, within the American Indian nations. So that's why I wanted to include these images to kind of get their idea of like, oh, that each location is different. It's not the same. And of course, as we move within these American Indian nations, it slowly introduces them that they're also different and not the same. So as I continue to the first activity, I did this activity with task cards, of course, because I know it's there for the students to individually, or sometimes it could probably be used in groups, but to answer the question. But as this activity is being used, it's basically being used to answer the questions that I'm using a book for. And I accidentally skipped that part, but the book that I'm going to be using for this topic, which would be on, I believe it's called the very first Americans by Kara, or oh my god, I don't want to say her last name. I don't want to say it wrong, but it's by Kara. And this book is by preschool through 3rd grade. It's a very easy book to read. It's not so difficult. There's a lot of pictures in there. And within this book, it just describes each of the American Indian nations, and it gives a very good description, and not so complicated, not so hard. So that's why I chose this book. It's just easy for them to follow through, and then they can kind of get their ideas from how they're different, how they're similar, what foods they eat, how is their location, where they're at, is it cold, is it hot, just to get a little idea. But I chose this book to do it for the activity of the task cards. And within these task cards, they'll be given questions such as, what is the term of Native Americans referred to, and why are they called the very first Americans? That would be like one of the task cards. And of course, when the students are going to be placed into groups, and they can answer together this question. And as they answer this question together, this task card will be, or the response to this task card will be posted on a poster to which other students can be seeing this response as a guide. I would give them other task cards, but the social studies, lesson plans, or when we teach social studies for third graders or any elementary school grade, we are limited with time. So that's why I'm kind of like debating whether I should switch the cards. But maybe like 2 to 3 cards, maybe if they can answer really quick, oh yeah, then they can get a new card. But of course, if it takes some time to answer the question, then they can just stick with one task card. So these are just, in the docs you'll see some of my task cards are there, but they just have questions that are regarding to the book that they could think of. But maybe some of the questions can have like they might need to think a little bit deeper, so they might have to do some research, which I will allow to let them have, their tablets or their laptops, of course, because I know with this generation now we use a lot of technology. So I believe they would know how to Google things. If they can Google a YouTube video, I believe they can Google any other information. But of course, if they need assistance, that is why we're here, and I cannot be determined, or I cannot confirm that they actually know. So of course, as we move on, there's also, after the test cards, I guess I can give them vocabulary definitions, of course, but it's going to be introduced no matter what. I'm going to be saying these terms within the book, or just as they need to make sentences or statements, I'm going to tell them to use these vocabulary terms to describe their opinions on the text, of course. And I believe with my activity 2, it is basically just them doing a writing activity, which is basically just answering what interested them in that book. So an example would be, what aspects of the tribe, lifestyle, culture, or traditions stood out to you? Did you learn anything new or surprising about the tribe while reading about them in the book? Or another question can be about, if you could visit or learn more about this tribe, what questions would you ask? So it's basically just asking them what interested them in this book and what other information you liked about it, or what they specifically liked about this certain tribe. Maybe they didn't like other tribe, but they like this tribe, or it's just to get their opinion and just see how they can explain it in their own words and give a description of what they learned too. But that is basically just a writing activity for activity 2. And afterwards, there are just worksheets where basically would be for homework. This worksheet I got online, but it's basically, it is a test, but at the same time I didn't want it to be a test. I just wanted it to be a little worksheet that can refresh the students' brains on the knowledge of learning about the American Indian nations. So of course, when I introduced this to them, if I give this to them, it's not going to be like graded like very like, oh, like as a test would be. This is just basically like a little mini study guide. Of course, when they answer, maybe they might not have all the answers. So of course, if we were to be going into the next class, we can probably just do like a little review of it, or we can go over the answers together, so which then they can have the correct answers, and then they can use this as a little mini study guide of having some information about the American Indian nations. But I also wanted to like add that this isn't like, I know it's not a test, but I didn't want to include any other difficult types of worksheets. Just fill in the blanks, and then also just oh my god, it's not fill in the blanks, but also just circle which answer is correct. And then there's one of the worksheets that give an opinion. No, there's not. Okay, never mind, there's not. So basically, it's just all the information we learned from the book, and then this is just going to be used as a study guide. That is basically it for my lesson plan. If there is anything that needs clarification or needs to be fixed, do tell me, because this is just a draft of my lesson plan, and I really want to make this lesson plan better for third graders, but also other future students that might want to learn about this topic. So, bye.